Hi there, guys. Give me a minute. Okay. Hi there, guys. It's Aaron here from Push Square, and I'm coming to you all the way back from 10 years ago, the year 2011. A time when Gautier was busy singing about somebody that he used to know, Will and Kate had just got married, and the Marvel movies, Captain America and Thor just came out. I think the studio might be onto something there with this whole cinematic universe thing. But no, what I mainly want to discuss with you today, while I'm here in 2021, is just how great a time we're having as PlayStation players in 2011 at the moment. Because while I'm sure that great future years lie ahead, with open world games presumably becoming more of a thing and so, let me tell you now, we are having a great time back here, guys. And I just want to take the opportunity to tell you why I think it is. Strap in now, won't you? Because we're in for a wild ride. The biggest reason 2011 is a year that represents PlayStation at its finest is thanks to the absolute onslaught of first-party platform-exclusive games that were released. Whereas up until this point there'd been a sense of PlayStation still trying to find its feet during the early HD era, 2011 was when a lot of the series that initially debuted on the PS3 were fully given the chance to come into their own. Uncharted, Infamous, Killzone, Little Big Planet, Resistance and Motorstorm all received sequels this year, most of them threequels, acting as the ultimate culmination of everything each game's respective developers had learned up until that point. Was 2011 also the year that the PlayStation gods gifted us with PlayStation Move heroes? I mean, well, yeah, but, it was kind of cool in concept. Take Resistance 3, a personal favourite of mine for instance. The first two games in Insomniac's shooter series worked well enough to give FPS fans something to play, but the first Resistance was a PS3 launch title that felt hampered by the lack of understanding of the tech. Resistance 2, meanwhile, though grander in scope, very much came across as a Call of Duty but with aliens. You even follow a fellow soldier throughout most missions. Resistance 3, however, marked a major turning point for the franchise. And it's a hole in my heart I've been left trying to fill ever since. Resistance 3 did away with Nathan Hale's gruff tone and put you in the shoes of Joseph Capelli, ready to save the world by venturing on a post-apocalyptic road trip a full year before Joel and Ellie would embark on a similar journey. The guns were as creative as ever, the storyline surprisingly mature, and Insomniac knocked it out of the park in terms of making you care about this world. Speaking of apocalyptic environments though, 2011 was also the year that we were eventually graced by the explosive delights of Motorstorm Apocalypse. Previously scheduled to release in February but delayed into March out of respect for the earthquake and tsunami in Japan that year, this third outing for Evolution's chaotic multi-vehicle racer quite literally fired on all cylinders. Never before had it been quite so thrilling to race across roads just as buildings and bridges crumbled all around you. It didn't matter if you were driving a superbike, muscle car or monster truck, the race to reach the end carrier first gave Motorstorm Apocalypse a slight edge over other arcade racers out at the time. Now, if only PlayStation took all three Motorstorm games and tidied them up and packaged them into a PS5 remastered collection. Imagine that. Now, admittedly, Killzone 3 wasn't the game changer that other first-party franchises were experiencing in 2011, but as a pretty FPS that players could enjoy, it was fine and reviewed quite well. A more successful reinvention came later on in June, with the electrifying release, pun intended, of Infamous 2. With a new setting heavily inspired by New Orleans and a fresh voice actor for Cole, Sucker Punch greatly expanded the scope by giving its protagonist an all-new weapon to use, we love a bit of the amp, and power sets that played more into the franchise's good versus evil reputation system. Sure, the original Infamous did the job in terms of letting players on PS3 live out a superhero fantasy. Spider-Man hadn't swung his way onto the platform just yet, but looking back, Empire City can feel a bit drab. Fast forward to just 2 years later though, and New Marais is an absolute delight to explore, whether you choose to do so by hovering, sliding on various power lines and so on. Infamous 2 really is the perfect open world sequel in so many ways, building on the foundations of the original while near perfecting its mechanics. I personally would go so far as to say that it's still the series' pinnacle. Sorry, Second Son. then of course you can't discount the impact that Little Big Planet 2 had on the PlayStation ecosystem when it also released in 2011. This do-it-yourself 2.5D platformer wasn't just a charming adventure that could be enjoyed by 3 other friends in the same room, but an entire platform primed to spark the imagination of creative PS3 owners everywhere. This was an ethos laid down by the original game, sure, but by porting over all existing user-generated content and levels into this sequel, as well as providing a whole host of other creative tools, Little Big Planet 2 marked the last time the series took a major step forwards, as much as we enjoyed Sackboy's third outing later on PS4. Finally, the last first-party exclusive to come out swinging in 2011 was a true heavy hitter. And it was so good a follow-up that the last thing it had players saying was, "Nate, no!" Yes, expectations were high after Uncharted 2 Among Thieves had redefined what a blockbuster experience third-person action games could be. But Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, is definitely a pulp-inspired adventure that is of equal quality, if not more. What Drake's journey to find the lost city of Aram of the Pillars doesn't have in trains, it more than makes up for with, let me check my notes, planes. Yeah, makes sense. And Naughty Dog absolutely knocked it out of the park in terms of delivering on the same level of scale for its gamut of action set pieces. There's a reason that players constantly debate between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 for their reputation as best in the series to this day. And it was spun up in 2011 because Nathan Drake and cohorts were riding on that high. Now, we're only a third of the way through this video, but surely with this list of PS3 exclusives alone, it's more than enough evidence that 2011 was a good, if not the best year for PlayStation. I can't remember the last time we were treated to no less than 6 first-party titles within the same year, and it's all a result of 2011 being that perfect sweet spot where PlayStation Studios finally understood the PS3 architecture almost fully at a time when every AAA game didn't take 4 to 5 years to make. If only we knew how good we had it back then. I'd be remiss not to mention what an excellent time 2011 also was for PlayStation by way of multi-platform titles. Because in between Nathan Drake's brand of rope swinging and Cole McGrath literally lighting things up, a few games you may have heard of also released. Dark Souls, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Portal 2, Batman Arkham City and, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, to name a few, all released to critical acclaim that year, and they're still fondly thought of 10 years later by the PlayStation audience, as well as others. Up until around about 2011, the PS3 had a reputation as being hard to develop for by third-party devs. And while it's true that we were only just breaking out of this idea that multi-platform games on the PS3 were somehow the inferior version, most of the smash hits mentioned looked and played great. And yes, I know that Skyrim on PS3 had its particular issues, but come on, technical glitches in Bethesda games are just par for the course by this point. What matters is that being a PS3 player in 2011 meant a whole glut of great games to play, both on the first and third party side, and all before a time when microtransactions and loot boxes were nothing but just a twinkle in EA's eye. It really was bliss, wasn't it? Another contributing factor to 2011 being an awesome time for PlayStation, perhaps surprisingly, was actually its marketing strategy. The PS3 Slim had become the de facto console SKU by this point, and the platform holder had lent further into its incredibly catchy "It only does everything" slogan, and making an intriguing fictional hire to see it through. The name Kevin Butler is sure to have a lot of meaning for PlayStation gamers of a particular age, and it's mainly due to how direct and cheesy he was. Kevin Butler's no-nonsense and straight-to-the-point approach was indicative of a Sony still on the ropes, but one that was willing to fight back by focusing on delivering great games first and foremost. Whether it was arguing with a 10-year-old about letting his grandma play PS3 for longer, or explaining to a simple boyfriend how it was literally impossible to complete Little Big Planet 2 and see everything it has to offer, Kevin Butler was an ingenious invention that demonstrated how corporate Sony was willing to poke fun at itself. And it worked, so much so that Butler's appearance at E3 the year before is still best described as, well, legendary. With his hard work done, 2011 would unfortunately be the last time existing and prospective PlayStation owners would ever get to enjoy Kevin Butler's carefree and rather outlandish monologues. but his legacy can still very much be seen in PlayStation's no-nonsense attitude today, especially when it comes to quality games. God bless you, Kevin Butler. Forever may he reign in our hearts. A relatively small win for 2011 next, but it's still one worth talking about, I think. Though this occurred just 1 year before the PSP successor, the PlayStation Vita, would eventually launch, Sony's original handheld console received a cheaper, budget-style revision in the PSP E1000 model. This was great because it marked the last time PlayStation would create hardware capable of playing UMDs. They were universal, after all, and it meant that players jumping into the portable ecosystem in 2011 had a great back catalogue of games to play. Pursuit Force, anyone? No? Only on PSP could you enjoy the utter delights that were Patapon 3, Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, and even Final Fantasy IV, the complete collection. Admittedly, not the handheld's best showing, but everyone knows that coming in towards the end of a system's life cycle usually means having a deluge of gaming treats to choose from, and 2011 was very much the year to do it on PSP. Now, believe it or not, 2011 wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for PlayStation. In fact, the period between April 20th and May 4th very much wasn't, as PlayStation was forced to completely shut off the PSN network to fend off an attack and better reinforce its online infrastructure. It was quite literally a dark time for both the platform itself and gamers, as us PS3 diehards were left without online play, or worse yet, the ability to sync trophies! Yes, things looked a little uncertain there for a while, but from tragedy struck greatness, and optimists like myself could even argue that the infamous PSN 2011 outage was a valuable learning experience for PlayStation. Why? Well, the PlayStation Network hasn't ever gone down to quite that degree ever since. Fingers crossed it stays that way. And though online multiplayer was something PlayStation users would eventually be charged for via a PS Plus subscription, the network has remained ever stronger for it. Plus, if we're getting deeply personal, I probably would have never have played Dead Nation were it not for the 2011 PSN outage. PlayStation sought to make up for the 23-day-long outage by providing players compensation by way of free games on both PSP and the PS3. European users could choose between Infamous, Little Big Planet, Dead Nation, and Ratchet & Clank Quest for Booty on the latter, while up for grabs on PSP was Little Big Planet, Mod Nation Racers, Pursuit Force, and Killzone Liberation. Probably the best Killzone game, if we're being honest. So there you have it, guys, in terms of why 2011, Aaron Potter believes that 2011 is also one of the best times ever to be a PlayStation player. Sure, I mean, we're still fiddling around with the DualShock 3 controller, but generally speaking, PS3 is a great time to be a Sony fan. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got to jump back now, but if you did, be sure to leave this video a like and consider subscribing to the Push Square YouTube channel for everything PlayStation related in future. Let me know and look after the future for me. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.